We're all in here. Thank you so much, you guys, for coming out tonight. Obviously, we're all here for a common cause, and that's the 16-mile fire. My name is Catherine Cooley. I am the Fire Information Officer for the 16-mile fire here in your community, and I'm happy to be here, not under these circumstances, but happy to be here to help support this effort. Among the people behind me, we welcome you, and we'll get into introductions with each speaker that we have. If you wouldn't mind, just turning off your cell phones, I'm going to lay some ground rules out. We have a lot of people in the audience, and we're going to do a question and answer session at the end of this. We've got some wonderful presentations to give you, and I just ask that you respect those and hold your questions to the end. I know it's hard. We're going to give you a lot of information. Hopefully we'll answer some of those questions for you as we're rolling through with these speakers. We are going to be recording this presentation for future use. And that's another reason why we want to hold the questions to the end, so we can kind of keep the presentation pretty concise. I know we all have busy schedules, and it's late, it's a Wednesday, and we want to get you home at a reasonable hour. So thank you for that. So the main goals for tonight is give you a brief overview of what's gone on over the last 8 days. Fire history here has been few and far between in terms of fire events of this magnitude. The last one was back in 1990 of a 10,000-acre fire. So we don't see these types of fires here very often, which is a good thing. But they do happen. They do shake us to the core. So there's a lot to learn from these events going forward, and we hope to educate you as we learn ourselves. So, one of the things we want to do is give you a current status update on the fire. Had a lot of progress. The weather has been extremely cooperative over the last couple days. We're going to give you kind of have the guys who were here before the incident management team showed up that talk about that initial attack. So those folks that are at the fire initially, they're going to tell you their story about responding to these fires, as well as kind of the fire weather perspective. How we got to this point and going forward during fire season. We're going to talk to the agency administrator, who's Tim Dugan. He's the Delaware State Forester, District Forester. He's going to be kicking it off here. So, again, questions at the end would be greatly appreciated, and I hope you learned something tonight. So with that, I'm going to introduce Tim Dugan, and he's the Delaware State Forest District Forester.
Thank you, Catherine. Can everybody hear us all right up here? We're at the stage, we're hearing a reverberation, so I just want to make sure you can all hear us well. So welcome tonight. My name is Tim Dugan. I'm the District Forester for the Delaware Forest District. We're glad that everybody came out tonight to hopefully learn a little bit more about this incident, learn more about our agency and what we've been doing over the last 8 days, and some of our steps towards the future. I would like to acknowledge that our state forester is here, Dan Devlin. He made the trip here from Harrisburg today to show his support and help us through this effort. A little history about myself. I'm from the Lehigh Valley originally. Since I've been old enough to go fishing and hunting, I've grown up using Pike County outdoors and experiencing a lot of the woods and creeks and natural areas. I have a hunting camp up in the northern end of the county. So Pike County is a special place to me in the Poconos. But as a young guy, I realized I wanted to work outdoors. And so I transitioned into college to follow the career of a forester. Through my college training, I had a lot of training about trees and forests, as well as forest fires and forest fire protection and fighting wildland fires. I was fortunate enough in the early 2000s to come to the Bureau of Forestry and starting many trainings there, working in southeastern PA. And over the course of 10 years in the southeast, I worked in a host of capacities, but also including wildfire suppression and doing different activities to take care of our natural resources. 2.5 years ago, I got a promotion and moved up here to District 19, also referred to as the Delaware Forest District, which covers all of Pike and Monroe counties. The Bureau of Forestry's mission is to sustain and manage the the forests of Pennsylvania for the long-term health and viability into the future. They gave me a bunch of notes. I usually don't do well reading notes, but I'm going to try to keep myself on cue. I apologize for that. So wildland fire prevention is a major component of the Bureau of Forestry. The Bureau of Forestry's main role, or one of our main roles in Pennsylvania, is to suppress and control wildfires in the landscape, wherever they may be across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Through that effort, we have an intense amount of training and an intense amount of cooperators. We work with local fire departments, other state agencies, federal agencies, across the board to build the breadth and the amount of value that we have and the resources that we have throughout the region and the Commonwealth. A lot of our staff on an annual basis do travel out west. Oftentimes you'll see them in the news media, a crew of Pennsylvania firefighters heading out to California or Montana or somewhere very far away. So this has been a challenging week for us because one of those major incidents happened here in Pennsylvania. So for the last 8 days, we've been working tirelessly and using all of our dedicated staff that we could to address these large fires that happened in Monroe and Pike counties. The Beartown, locally named the Beartown and 16 Mile fires. It has been a challenge. Wildfire is not new to this landscape or to this region, but this incident is abnormal, and the complexity of it is abnormal as well. A lot of that is due to the recent weather patterns, the lack of snow over the winter, a lot of gypsy moth mortality throughout the forest, heavy fuel loadings. And then with the current weather pattern that we had starting over the last 2 weeks, leading to very low relative humidity, dry weather, windy weather, warm weather. It all set the stage for an unprecedented event, which we have all recently lived through. We understand that there have been a lot of impacts, and we're sorry for those who lost their cabins. There were two state leased cabins and 3 other structures that were lost in this event. The lower Cease Hill and upper Cease Hill area had a very strong impact from the smoke, the traffic, and anyone in the community has been dealing with the road closures and all of the little things that have been putting your normal daily routine out of sorts. As such, I would like to thank you all for your cooperation and patience as we work to manage through this incident. It is very complex. It's very large scale. The last time that we had a fire of this magnitude in Pennsylvania was 1990, and that fire burned 10,000 acres in less than 1 day. There, the stage was set, so it can happen, and it does happen out there. Fortunately, there's a long time in between these events. So some current I would like to thank, I spoke of some of the partners that we train with, but I'd like to thank some of our partners that are here tonight and that have been assisting us throughout the last week. I apologize in advance because I'll probably miss some people. Our local volunteer fire departments. Barrett Township has been a huge help. They've been hosting us, feeding our firefighters, been very gracious hosts, and we do greatly appreciate that. The counties, Pike County Emergency Management and Monroe County Emergency Management have been working with us. Great people there trying to help us as much as we can, or get us everything that we can. The townships, Porter Township has been attending a lot of our meetings, getting the daily updates because that is a high area of activity for this fire. State agencies, the Pennsylvania Game Commission had a lot of staff out helping us. Other agencies in the state, the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency, or also known as PEMA, they have assisted us in great lengths, as well as state police and the National Park Service. So a lot of cooperators coming together to help us in this effort because it is such a large and unprecedented event. So some of the current statistics and status of the fire. The current containment current containment is at 80%. We've had over 150 firefighters on this event. The Beartown fire was 612 acres, and the 16 Mile fire is just over 8,000 acres. One of the main things that we strive to achieve and pride ourselves on when fighting wildfires is safety. It is a very dangerous climate. Things can change very quickly. And safety is at the forefront for the protection of life of our firefighters and the public when we're out there. Through this major incident, we've only had one minor injury, which is a great achievement in itself. As I said before, unfortunately, there are 11 structures that includes some seasonal homes, the cabins, and the outbuildings. Unfortunately, they were lost. The cabins on the state forest land will be allowed to rebuild, and my staff will be working one-on-one. I had the opportunity to speak with one leasee earlier today, and then I met some other leasees here tonight. The road closures, they are an inconvenience. We know that Snow Hill Road is a major connector to get people from east to west and vice versa. We've lived through it before when the bridge was out, and if we could just ask for your cooperation and patience, we appreciate all that has been received so far. The road closures are instituted for our firefighter safety. One of the major threats and one of the most common injuries to firefighters, especially in wildland fires, are vehicle accidents. You know, those guys and gals are going to be using the roads to move from one side to another. If there's smoke or other things hanging in that area, they run a risk of having an incident with a vehicle. So we appreciate your cooperation in that effort. The smoke is laid down. We caught a great break with the weather here in the past couple of days, but we will continue to monitor the area for smoke and address it as needed. We were working with the Department of Environmental Protection to do some air quality monitoring throughout this incident. The resource impacts. I know a lot of calls and emails that my office have received are concerned about the trees, the plants, the wildlife. Later on this evening, I will provide some additional updates and information on the plan in the future for the natural resources that were impacted. The cause of the fire. In our statutes, as I stated earlier, how the Bureau of Forestry is charged with managing wildfires in Pennsylvania to suppress them. We also investigate them and prosecute those that we can find responsible for igniting fires. A very small amount of wildfires in Pennsylvania are set on purpose. Our investigator has been out on scene since last week, looking at this, working in cooperation with other law enforcement agencies, which is really appreciated. And he has identified some of the sites where the fire started. And he feels strongly that it was an arson, so that fire was set on purpose. Terry Smith is our investigator. He's here tonight. To my next point, there is an investigation is ongoing, and there is a reward. So if you have any information, if you'd like to stay anonymous, you may talk with Terry tonight or get his information so that you can call him. We've also received today an anonymous $5,000 donation to double our reward size to $10,000. So the anonymous donation came from within the region to support our efforts to help bring in anonymous tips or calls to hopefully prosecute the individual responsible. So I spoke about a lot of our training and the different things that we do to be prepared for wildfires in Pennsylvania and across the country. A large part of our training involves a federal system called the Incident Command System and incident management teams. Those systems allow us to go from being prepared to responding to incidents as they come up in the landscape. I'm sure many of you have seen the fire towers, Big Pocono and High Knob. We use those towers to find initial smokes that come up in the landscape, and we have firefighters out there that work for the Bureau that go out and address those initial fires. That is the basic beginning of our fire program, finding the smoke, getting out there and assessing it. That transitions into a more complicated system as the fires get larger, more complex, and have more risks or threats in their area. In that incident management team system is how we work through the complexity of these fires. So initially, our district responded in a typical fashion to the fires that came up. So that district response, we quickly realized that there were two large fires in close proximity, and we didn't have the staff or resources at the local level to be able to address it. We were calling as many people in that we could to get to help in a safe and efficient manner. So we transitioned to what is called a Type 3 team. So that would be it's actually a higher level team. It's a group of people that come in, and they're overhead, and they help the district and the local resources manage that incident. So the Type 3 team came into our district last week, and within a short period of time, we realized that the complexity and the risks of the incident were outside of the Type 3 team. So we requested a federal Type 2 team. So our training and cooperation through all of these programs has garnered us great connections and relationships with national partners in other states across the region. We are very fortunate to have those resources available to us across the whole country, and through this we were able to get a Type 2 team to come out to respond to our incident and help us manage it in as efficient and fast and safe process as possible. So tonight I'm very fortunate to have them here. Standing behind me are many of the team members, and I'd like to introduce our incident commander, Jim Grant.
Thanks, Tim. First of all, I'd like to say thank you all for letting us come to your beautiful state of Pennsylvania and your community. Again, my name is Jim Grant. I'm the incident commander for the Eastern Area Type 2 Incident Management Team. A little bit about myself. I started my career in the 1980s, early 1980s. I'm currently working for the United States Forest Service in northern Wisconsin. I'm originally from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, big snow country, right next to Lake Superior. Grew up in a small rural community. As Tim mentioned, I'm an avid fisherman and a hunter, and a lot of this is like home to me, I'll be honest, especially the culture that I see here and the visions I see. Also, I just want to talk, things I want to talk about as a team, where we're from, what we are, who we are, and that, and we'll take questions afterwards, what the captain said at the end. Who are we? Who's the team that we have here? I'll explain that a little bit. As Tim mentioned, we are a national team. My team consists of 97 people. Okay, we don't have 97 people here. We are ordered up as a short team, which is typically 9 to 15 people. Currently we have about 20 members here. And the team right now is, my main players are here, I'll say that next. We refer to as the command and general staff, section chiefs. And we transitioned, and I gotta say we had a tremendous transition with the Type 3 team, as Tim mentioned. They did a fabulous job. They left us sitting very well. And we're really proud of them, I'll be honest, because I've been in situations where we've not had good transitions and we've not been left sitting well. This team that was here, they're experts at that Type 3 level and beyond. And we can't thank them enough. It made our incoming very nice. The welcoming we had is fabulous. Where are we from? Right now we represent the 20-state area. Out of the 97 people on my team, I have 20 states represented. That's just about half the United States. And we refer to that as a geographical area, the Eastern area. We are the only national team in that area. There's a lot of other state teams as well. Something about our team is, I can give you some background. We've been together for now about 7, 8 years. A lot of the members have been on other teams across the country. In the last 6 years, I think we've had 12 incidents that we've responded to across the country. That ranges from Missouri to Indiana, Minnesota, Michigan, Alaska, Montana. Let's see, I also included actually several incidents in Minnesota and as well as Michigan. And also in New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, we helped with the Hurricane Sandy. And not to mention that, many of the members, like I said, have been all over the country. I've been involved in emergency management, like I said, since the 1980s. I've been in 41 different states. A little bit more about my background. I've been a police officer for 10 years, been in the military for 8, and this is while I was employed by the federal government. Spent 4 years employed by the state. Love every bit of it, won't change any of it. What are we here for? The purpose we're serving here is basically to meet the job at the complexity that the incident is proposing to us. And there's Type 3 level, as Tim mentioned, there's Type 2, and there's a level above us, which is a Type 1 team. Type 1 teams basically are those teams, those of you remember Hurricane Katrina, and I was there as well, that was several Type 1 teams came in that. Large incidents that have maybe 2,000 people on it, Type 1 teams come in. It's all based on complexity, okay? The Type 2 team I have Again, these people have also been on Type 1 teams. We have Type 1 qualified people on this Type 2 team at various levels. We're here really to meet the needs of all of you out here, the agencies that we're working for, and I work directly for the agency. That's Tim's agency. I report to Tim. He's the agency administrator. I have certain delegations that I'm given of authority, and that goes through the agency. How do we get ordered up? Again, that eastern area I talked about, 20-state area, there's all the agencies are involved in that, and when there's a need in the area and they need a Type 2 team, they're going to call in the closest team that's at that level of complexity to come here. And that goes through all of our channels in the federal government and various levels of dispatch and coordination centers. What can we do for you besides managing the incident? Okay. Tim alluded to a little bit. Besides just managing the incident, we bring a lot of expertise, just like a lot of this Type 3 team has had and still has and will gain more. We bring a lot of expertise here to help maybe for future things as well. A lot of training, we'll offer up training to maybe Type 3 individuals that aren't to that Type 2 level yet. These are just the side benefits. Okay. The team members that I have, it's all the way from operation chiefs to finance chiefs to supply and food unit leaders and everything that it takes to manage the complexity. Type 3 team that was here did a fabulous job at that complexity level. You get to certain levels and you run out of people, okay? And you got to bring in that next level, okay? And that's why we're here. I got to say this much. This is nothing new to us, this type of environment. Where we come from, like I say, the 20 states that represent the eastern area, and you know all those states, the vegetation type is very similar. Where I live, we have lots of hardwood, lots of oak, big timber companies we have. We cut over 100 million board feet a year on our national forest. Lots of lakes and beautiful trout streams, maybe not quite as beautiful as yours though. A lot of avid grouse hunting areas, bear hunting, everything going on. Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Missouri, all that has that. Missouri, for example, has a lot of the same fuel type. Hardwoods, fast-moving fires with hardwood leaf litter. The mountains you have are beautiful here. A lot of places in the eastern area don't have the mountains you have. You know, I got to say, I just love them. We've been in Alaska, I mentioned. Last year we spent time in Alaska, 27 days in Alaska. Similarities there that are different than here, no doubt, but there are similarities. You know, and it's flat there where we were at. A lot of swamps. You have swamps here, and the swamps here this year are pretty dry. It's pretty obvious. The other thing that we bring is a high level of safety. And there's two things on our team that we're very proud of, amongst other things, and one obviously is safety, just like the Type 3 team. Their number one was safety. Our number one is safety. That's of the firefighters and all the public people. And I always say life first, life first. And the components that make life first are all those components, the weather, the snags we got to worry about, the driving conditions, when it rains, maybe when we're dropping aerial retardant, the slipperiness of that, and on and on and on. That is the utmost importance to you guys and to us is that life first. Type 1 teams. I'm going to give an example of that. If this incident would have grew to more than 8,000 acres, and let's say 5 times the size, the complexity would have rose. I mean, we'd have a lot more resources in here, more air tankers and more helicopters, to a point where my team wouldn't be able to manage that, okay? Because we don't have the resources to do that. And maybe the expertise was a notch higher, okay? If it would have got to that, then I'd work with the agency administrator and say, okay, maybe it's time to look at a higher level team. Okay? Didn't get to that. I didn't expect it to get to that, you know, and I'm glad it didn't. The other thing I do want to mention is that teams work closely together. It doesn't matter if it's a Type 3, Type 2, or Type 1. It's a huge family out there in the fire workforce. It doesn't matter which team you're on. The transition, we incorporated many of the agencies and organizations and fire departments into our team. Okay? We have various emergency management specialists that are with our team, shadowing our team. It's not like we're coming in, we're just taking over and with our own people. The number one thing that we want is that local expertise. We can't do it without local expertise, and that means team members that were here, the fire department that's here, the county officials that's here, the township officials that's here, the state officials that's here, and all the community members. It takes a team, and part of that team is every one of you to make our job successful out here. We have ability to bring in a lot more resources when we get to certain complexity levels. It's very complicated. If you're not in the fire world to understand a lot of it, we place orders for certain entities. Maybe we need more dozers. We can reach out. If they're not available locally, we're very blessed here because so many of the resources were available locally. And so many of the dozers and the excavators and the seats that we are being used for air tankers were available locally. We don't have that liberty out of the place we go. There were resources we brought in from outside that weren't available. But that's the liberty we have as a Type 2 team to reach out and pull those resources in. The other thing I do want to say is that I've been in places where it doesn't work, and here it works very well. The community has been exceptionally grateful to us. We can't say thank you enough, the agencies as well, the organizations. That makes it, if we don't have that communication link, things don't go right for us, no matter what we do. And we've got that, we feel we've established that. It appears this is going to be a fairly short-lived assignment for our team, and that's a good thing. You know, we're only going to be here as long as we're needed to get the job done, and we're going to continue to stay here until that job is done. And that's all the way through to whatever's needed as far as the rehabilitation of control lines, seating, or whatever it may take, until the agency says, you know what, we can now handle this, and we're going to release you guys. So that's a little bit about our team. Like I said, we've been around the country quite a bit. Personally, I've been on over 400 fires as an incident commander at various levels. There's 5 levels, obviously on level 2. And I think we bring a lot of experience here. We look forward to continuing the days out, working with all the community, the agencies, and all the other firefighters here. And we hope that we can leave here and you're all going to be very happy with what we did. So with that, getting into the nitty-gritty stuff now, the operation stuff, and really what took place before we got here and the transition to where we're at now, I have 3 operation specialists that are going to come up here and walk us through the chronological order of where things are at right now. And I want to introduce those folks, and I'm probably going to kill the spelling on this one. Todd Brenninger. Okay, Todd Brenninger. We have Sean Turner and Randy McKenzie. And Sean's going to come up first, and he's going to walk us through this and turn it back over to Todd then. Sean.
Good evening. My name is Sean Turner. I supervise fire operations in Monroe County for the Bureau of Forestry. I've been there I think this is about my 27th fire season there, and it's been fortunate. It's a really great place to work. You meet a lot of great folks out there. This fire is local to me. When you see the Division X right there, I just live just a little bit north of here, so this fire is truly in my backyard. I've been all over that ground throughout a lot of my life. I was what's called the Initial Attack Incident Commander. Fire towers picked up some smokes about 10:44 on the 20th. They picked up 2 smokes right up along what we call Lake Trail along Browns Lake. We immediately recognized that area as being an area that we've had significant fires before. We were fairly close. We dispatched 1 engine, then a couple more engines, and then I went to Browns Lake and seen that we had 2 different wildfires occurring. Our cooperators in New Jersey also said that their fire towers said the fires were growing rapidly. We were able to get units on scene. It took quite a while. It's a long way back to get there, so we immediately called for aircraft to come in. Helicopter, Browns Lake's right there to start working on the fires. They arrived basically before we arrived on the fire because of the distance to get in there. At approximately 12:18, 2 other smokes were reported right down in here in the Beartown area. Our aerial aircraft went down there to take a look to see what that looked like. They immediately said that they had structures threatened immediately and that the fires up here in 16 Mile at that point did not. We called for additional air tank. In fact, we called for all the eastern air tankers at that point, and the aircraft went to kind of work on that fire. Resources that we ordered for this fire were transferred over to that fire also. So now we have a couple of fires that are spreading pretty rapidly. Jim, could you go to the first fire again? So this is the fire that occurred there, and its burn period till about 7 p.m. that night. When we arrived on scene, we noticed that we were dealing with extreme fire behavior. So we were looking at 16-foot flame lengths, rapid rates of spread, spotting out to 500 feet, and there was not much at that point we could do, so we fell back to Lake Road to build an anchor point along that trail. We wanted to keep any western growth of that fire. We knew we had 2 fires at the same time. We would be competing for resources out there. So we worked significantly to try and kind of tie that together. Those 2 fires kind of worked together. The 2 fires on Beartown burned together also. We just continued initial attack. We recognized that we were going to have difficulties managing both of these fires. We ordered what Tim had said was a Type 3 team to kind of take over the management of at least one of these fires, being the Beartown fire, which they transferred back over, which they then took over the 16 Mile fire. The operations went all night long. There was crews on this fire till we replaced those crews the next thing in the morning. When I flew both of these fires, the fire that we were on was about 900 acres. So in that time frame for when we responded to there, it went 900 acres. To give you an example, the largest fire that we've had in this district since I've been here is 900 acres, and it took 4 days to get there. This fire took 10 hours to get to 900 acres. And then by the morning when I flew it again, it had doubled in size to 1,800 acres. Control efforts were not working. The fuels were too dry, the winds were too high. For the first 4 hours of this fire, we had 8% relative humidity. That's very difficult to deal with. This area here is an area of gypsy moth mortality. Snags, we estimate, are about 50 snags per acre. And this fire is over an 8,000 acre area. So putting firefighters directly up to that is a real safety hazard. And we made an objective about safety and verbiage the day we came to this fire, and the team that's here now is using that same verbiage that puts safety first here. So we've had these big concerns about safety. That kind of gives you the initial attack phase of the fire, and Todd Breininger will run us the rest of the way through.
We'll go to the next one, Jim. Okay, I'm Todd Breininger, like Sean said. I came in actually the first day when this was burning, but I actually went over to the Beartown fire and transitioned over to this one the morning of the 21st. It would be the second day of the fire. This is what it looked like when me and Sean flew the fire in the morning. One of the things you don't like to hear as a firefighter when you're on a big fire is a red flag. I'm sure a lot of you people have seen that on the news when they have red flag warnings. That means the fuels are extremely dry, it's going to be windy. If you get a fire going, the fire's going to be off to the races. So early on in the morning we heard it was going to be a red flag, low RH, high winds, and the fuels are extremely dry. One thing we've really had going against us this whole fire is extremely dry fuels, and like Sean said, the snags. For those of you who don't know what snags are, that's the dead trees. All the gypsy moth kill over the past how many years here, there's snags everywhere, and fire burning through somewhere, it burns through. If you have a healthy stand, there's really going to be no problem up ahead. But when you have all these snags, the fire burns through, you look up, and it's just like a magnet. All them little embers, all you see is these little puffs of smoke. And they just start burning all over, and then a little bit of wind catches it, and it'll blow 30, 40 feet across the line. So that's what we've been fighting this whole fire. That was the most difficult thing of this fire was the snags. We'd think we'd have a good containment line. The snags would start burning and just blow embers right over with the wind, and it would be off to the races again. So our initially when we got there was we wanted to try to tie the fire into the angler's road. As a firefighter, when we look at a fire, we like to build a box around things, and we want to try to box it in within a certain area. In a normal healthy timber stand, leaf blowers, we could have did a lot of work and got around it. Here, we had to drop back to a more indirect attack where we had to get pretty wide established areas and then kind of go from there and try to black the fire in from that point. But we wanted to try to start working down by the Anglers Club, which is down in here somewhere. It's hard to see on the map there. Because we had a pretty good line. The guys in the previous shift had some pretty good line going down around here. So we had some pretty good black line. That's meaning we're pretty confident it's going to hold. So we wanted to try to tie that and bring that around and come around. And our goal here is we were going to try to hold that at the Bushkill River or creek. That's what our main goal. We thought originally that we could hold it right along the creek here that's running down. So we were trying to box it in there, try to steer it away from the more populated areas up in here. Early on, we had a big fire push. The wind was coming from the west, and we had a real big fire push to the east. Jim, you can switch it to the next one. You'll see it pushed it coming right at us at the Anglers Club, which is right in there. It forced our hand. We had to start burning out, which is we actually lit the fire around the Anglers Club and stood back and tried to defend the fire as anything was coming over. We were putting the spot fires out to try to save all the structures at the Anglers Club. But we had a real big push. Extreme rates of spread on this fire. I mean, it was spotting all over. You're getting spots everywhere. And unfortunately, with that big push of wind, it blew it over the creek right here and right here. So the containment issues that we thought we'd try to contain it there for that day, that went right out the window. Extreme rates of spread blew it right across. So we had a lot of aircraft in the air that day. The only problem is when you're getting fire that's really burning hard and really burning fast and eating up a lot of ground, a lot of smoke goes in the air. So we had lots of aircraft over the fire. The problem was they couldn't get in to drop a lot of places because they're coming up above. All they see is smoke. And they can't get down real low because they're not going to fly in. They don't know where the trees are. That was our biggest issue. A lot of times we got smoked out where the aircraft couldn't see to go. We had lots of aircraft on this fire. Throughout most of this fire, we had 5 seats, which is a single engine air tanker. They hold anywhere from 500 to 800 gallons. One of them holds 500, the rest of them are all 800-gallon aircraft. We had all 5. We had 5 seats that are assigned in the state. 3 are out of Hazleton, 2 are in Mid-State, which is around State College. All those aircraft were flying out of Hazleton, and we also had the helicopter here. So the rest of the state, the importance that was put on this fire was we pretty much unloaded all the state aircraft were over here. The only other aircraft was a helicopter out by Somerset. So there's a lot of importance put on this fire, and we had lots of air support. Unfortunately, a lot of days when it was real bad, smoky-wise, we really couldn't get them down in there to do what we wanted them to do. So it was really smoked out, and we did know we had some structures up to the north. So at that point, we couldn't have the aircraft dropping on the fire. We moved back into a point protection mode, and we had the aircraft dropping around the structures, trying to put retardant down so when the fire did reach them, if it did reach them, hopefully it would knock the fire down and it wouldn't go into the structures. But the fire, unfortunately, really got established when it crossed the creek and it kind of ran up the hillside there. Go to the next one, Jim. 22nd, we decided we're going to build a bigger box. So we decided we're going to move it out to the east to the hay trail, if anyone's familiar with that, off of Snow Hill Road. That was going to be our eastern boundary. And we're going to try to go up north and try to block it off here before it got into any of the structures up north there. We were hoping to tie the swamp run into the Bushkill together with the bulldozers. That was the initial plan of attack. And then to the west, we're going to try to keep it on Lake Road and to the east. We had dozer lines, bulldozers putting in dozer lines all over the place. And this was one of the days it was hot, it was dry. The fuel's been dry throughout this whole thing. And we had lots of wind, the RH dropped down. And we kind of had the perfect storm. And it's hard to see here, you really can't see the topography. If you go to the next slide, Jim. Right in here, see this area right in here? If you look at the topography map, there's a drainage that's running right down through the middle of this. So we had a southwest wind, and that aligned with that drainage, and it just blew the fire right up that drainage, and it came up to what we're calling the Dill property up there by the Beaver Lake. It just came up there, and it just blew out everywhere. We had multiple heads. There was fire going multiple directions. We had lots of people up there that were working on structure protection, trying to stop that fire. Well, that all went out the door when the fire hit as hard as it hit there. There was people all over the place trying to put out spot fires. It blew right over our eastern line that we had. So this was a real bad day when we were up there. It made quite a run. Over 1,400 acres that burned that day, and that was just within 9.5 hours. So that was the day. We did lose a couple structures that day, unfortunately. We had a lot of people out there doing a lot of hard work, and they were putting themselves in jeopardy, but safety's always first. We did stay as long as we could and did what we could, and some of them I felt pretty comfortable when we left. There was one in particular where when we left there, I thought it was pretty good. I actually talked to the cabin owner, and unfortunately when we went back in, when things cooled down, the cabin didn't make it, and that was one call I did not like to make, to call the cabin owner and tell him he lost his cabin. But it was a real bad day. We had all the helicopters, all the aircraft on that fire, and got real smoky. Had to drop back to point protection again, try to put dozer lines around cabins, and try to put as much retardant in by cabins or on cabins as we could to try to save what we could there. So it was a real busy airspace. We're not used to having five seats and 2 helicopters. That's a very busy airspace. As someone that runs a lot of air operations, you don't like to have that many aircraft in that tight of an area. So we had a lot going on there, and the people that were in there did an excellent job at getting what they did done. Move on to April 23rd. North wind was predicted, so this was kind of a little bit of a savior. We thought we could make some time because usually our winds were coming down out of the southwest and out of the south and pushing it that way. So we had north wind. We thought we could get some stuff done. First thing we had to do was get into the dill property up there. We had to get in there, the dill track, sorry. We had to go in there and cut the roads open because there's snags everywhere. And when those were burning, they're just falling all over the roads. And so we had to open that up because there was a couple people lived there year round. And we wanted to clean everything up so we could get people in and out of there, and also so we could assess some of the other structures. So that was one of the main things, just cutting that road open so we could get ready for what would come down the road. We also did a lot of work getting more dozer lines put in. We still had quite a bit of fire in here around that property there. We just caught within the topography. There was no real good places to get it because of all the snags. So we had a tough time trying to find somewhere to really put a line in there. On the east side, we did get the bulldozer line coming up the east here. We cleaned up along that hay trail. That was starting to look real good, but we did have a lot of unburned fields that we had to take care of there to secure that line. And we did tie some of the swamp. Up here, we tied some of the swamp off our line into the swamp there by the Beaver Run Lake. And also down by the Anglers Club, we were working to kind of secure some line coming down here to try to burn this area out because we didn't have any real good place to put a line in there. So we were going to drop back a little bit, put line in, and when we had the right conditions, try to burn it out to create more black. So do it under when we want to do it, not when the wind's going to push the fire. But again, this was extreme fire behavior. We were getting spotting out, if it was spotting 500 feet ahead of the fire, it was real hard to catch this one. We had fire whirls, and when you see a lot of those, you got some extreme fire behavior going on. Moving on to the 24th. This was another bad day that we had. That the temperatures were up, the RH was down, the fuels were dry, and we had wind again. So we were still up here doing a lot of work up here by the dill track and over by the Pine Flats area, trying to get all that stuff tied in. At 12 o'clock, the RH was relative humidity. Sorry, RH was down at 16 degrees, 16%. We had gusty winds. And at that point, I started getting calls from all over the divisions. People in the divisions are saying, if the fire's spotting over my line, we're trying to catch with the bulldozers. We had spot fires everywhere. Everybody up there in that upper portion here, they were busy. Everyone we thought we had good lines, we had some good containment. We didn't. The spot fires were flying over the line when the wind caught it, and the fire was just making another good run. Something that happened here is we had a real hard southwest wind, and it pushed the fire and it just blew it out here up to the northeast, heading right up towards the Pine Flats. And it was coming into this clear cut that we had nowhere to hold it there. If the winds were continuing, it was going to just blow right across that. There was nothing we could do to stop that. We had just traveled up. I was actually way up in here when that happened. And we were debating if we didn't get out at a certain point, we weren't going to be able to make it back down because we thought it was going to push right across there. And We were safe because we were in a good area, but we wouldn't be able to get down for a long time because the road would have been cut off by fire, so we would have had to stay up there for a couple hours. Again, all the aircraft we had flying on it, trying to knock anything down that they could. We stayed as long as we could. We had some cabin owners that were in the cabins up there that we had to get down. Had to get them down the road there, the Bob Spring Road. And once we got them out, we kind of evacuated the area and made sure the pine flats, that's when we pulled the trigger to try to evacuate pine flats and make sure no one was out there. That we could, because at that point the fire was heading right into pine flats and there was nothing we could do to stop it. It was extreme fire behavior and it was really rolling out there. As bad of times we had up here that day, we did manage to get this area all burned out and secure this whole eastern edge. They were talking about bringing resources in from all over the place. Something I thought I'd never seen in the state of Pennsylvania was a hotshot crew. That's the Type 1 hand crew. That's the cream of the crop. Never thought I'd see them anywhere close to Pennsylvania. We had the Smoky Bear hotshots in here out of New Mexico. So they were doing some work here. They helped us prep this and burn it out. We did have an area down here. We see where it's bounced out there. They did have a slop over with all the snags, like I was saying. They had a slop over there and it blew it out. We did end up getting some dozer line around it and contained it. But talking to some of them guys, they're coming to the east. And when you go out west on fires, you hear a lot of people, there's a stigma from the east. Oh, you guys don't see fires like we have out here. Talking to some of them people, this opened their eyes to what they see here. And they weren't even here. They were down here dealing with all these spot fires. They weren't up here when it was really blowing up and going out. So it opened a lot of their eyes. I think they have a new respect for Pennsylvania and what kind of fires we can see sometimes. Because I've been going out west for many, many years now. I've been on lots of fires all over the western states. And some of the fire behavior that we've seen in the past couple days on this fire, that's real comparative to what I've seen out there, on some of the fires. The other thing we made good progress was up here at the Brights Creek. There was a drainage area that we were real concerned about. We did manage to get that area burned out to protect that club area there. So that was real good, and they also put some dozer line up in here and kind of tied in the whole upper portion of this fire for us. And then finally, Jim, moving on to April 25th, the next one. Early in the morning, I thought we're going to have another bad day. At 11 o'clock already, the RH started to drop down. It was in the mid-20s, and it was pushing our line that we had there. We were getting spot fires over it. It actually caused us to back out for a little bit and just pull the people out. We just used bulldozers to try to catch the spot fires that we had and put line around them. Luckily, we got some cloud cover, totally changed the story on things. We got like I said, air tankers. We got all the air tankers that we had, and we laid retardant. There's the Bob Spring Road here that goes through here. It goes through a clear cut. We laid retardant down the whole side of that to help support a burnout. We pre-treated the whole side of that line. Once it was completed, we did a burnout operation, and that created all this black in here to secure this line, and also they did a little bit of a burnout down here. So by the end of the day there, things were looking real good. We tied a lot of things in, and it was the perfect day to transition into the Type 2. I think we handed them something they could really get their hands on. So at that point, I was kind of done as the operation, and I turned it over to Randy McKenzie, who's the Ops Section Chief on the Type 2 team.
Thank you, Ted. Now you wonder what was my job after what they did. So, actually, Randy McKenzie, I'm from northern Michigan. This is my 40th year in fire. I've been with the Eastern team since the beginning, helping them out. I'm also on a Northern Rockies team as an operations chief. Been with that team for 13, 12 years roughly. So I've seen a lot of fires in a lot of small communities and seen communities threatened, homes burned, and usually we're the communities are very receptive. They're happy for the products that come with the Type 2 team to help out the local Type 3 team. And this community is no exception. I'm at awe. I mean, you've been through a lot. The community's stuck together. They're sticking together. The culture here is like my home where I come from. And I can say thank you to the community from the team, because we feel very welcome here. Also, the Type 3 team that you have here, when we arrived on Sunday, we were allowed to set in and listen to the traffic and try to get a feel for what's going on, and see where they needed assistance and where we could be of best help to them. And that was at all. They looked beat down, and they'd been through a lot, and you could see the hurt in them because of lost structures, and their accomplishments were checked every day. And so I think our team pulled together to help them out, and our goal was to work with them, come in and help them succeed. And I feel we only had the fire for one day, and then we got a rain, a little bit of a help from nature, but really they put it out. They put the lines around it. Todd and Sean and his resources with the Type 3 team, they were beat down, but the night that Todd said they put that line in up on the north end where you can see that red up there in Division X, they burnt that out along that line. But really they started burning that out, they prepped it, and they started burning it out in the morning, which you should do when the weather's cooler. They had a little slop over, so they held up. They watched the weather. They knew that they could burn up safer through the evening or into the evening, and they accomplished it. And so you could see the smiles on the faces of those that were back at the ICP, and even on the line. They did accomplish putting the line around it, and then the next day we were able to take advantage of the little bit of rain that came and started to mop up. And of course today we had another day with sun, and the lines have held, which allowed us to bring the containment up to 80%, which is real good. And then hopefully we can increase that every day for the next couple of days to say it's contained. So I just thank the community for coming and showing that appreciation for the team. And also, I'm going to look at my notes here. Okay, the mop-up success, or the containment success to this point, they had lots of tools. They worked hard on it. But Todd talked about the Smoke Bear hot shots. That was just an extra plug, extra people to put on the line to catch those spots that were coming across the line. So you put all that together, and I think they were very successful as a Type 3 team, and we're honored as a Type 2 team to work with them. And one of our goals as a team was to help them train staff within their team, and we kept a lion's share of their Type 3 team to work with us. That was allowing us to start out with just 14 people. So we used the resources that you had here in your community and this forest district combined effort to gain the success that we've had to this point. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our fire behavior analyst, Mike Murphy.
Good evening. My name is Michael Murphy. I'm what they call fire behavior analyst. No, I don't make it behave itself. I just try and predict what it's going to do. I was introduced to this fire Saturday night when I was crossing over Kinnetany Ridge on I-84 in New Jersey and New York. Looked and saw this big smoke column and said, whoa, that's close to the house. I live in Hemlock Farms, so I had real deep concern when I saw a big smoke column popping up over the Pocono Mountains, just like everybody else. Got up Sunday morning, didn't see any smoke, and then Sunday afternoon I could see it again, and that's when they called me to come on over. I also work for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service locally. I do a lot of fires. I train a lot with Todd and Sean, and do a lot of that other stuff. Basically, my job on fire is to provide information. I coordinate with the Weather Service, use the weather forecasts, run some fire behavior prediction models to try and find out what kind of fire behavior and where it's going to go. The beauty is I've lived here for a very long time, so I understand what the fire behavior is up here. So it made my job a lot easier. it's also kind of nice to be able to have a fire incident where I get to go home at night. But, so the behavior, I don't have to tell you how dry it is around here. I think all of this winter I had maybe a total of 10 inches on my deck at Hemlock, which is very unusual, as we all know up here. When the fuels were just ready to go, and the winds, the fuel, the dry fuels, and the fact that it was started just continued to go. The beauty is we got that rain, and that really helped a lot. And today, with the weather, we were kind of concerned a little bit because it started to dry out again. More and more, there were a couple more little fires in the general area. Well, there's a big fire still in New York, which I'm probably going to be going to in the next couple of days, over in Shonhook Ridge. And, you know, but tomorrow we're supposed to get a little bit more rain. And the hard work that the guys did on this fire, I was impressed. They did a lot of work. It's an unusual fire for this area. And I was pleased because it didn't move any further north to get into any of the other homes and up into the other parts, the more populated parts of the county. So that's kind of my job. And you're around for any questions and all that stuff.
Fire season? Yeah, fire season.
Not yet.
I'm John Hecker. I'm the liaison officer for the team. I work as a district forester out in the central part of the state in Clearfield, Elk, and Center counties. Manage about 300 square miles of Bureau land, Pennsylvania Bureau forestry land that's part of the Shannon State Forest up in the Elk Country and the Pennsylvania Wilds. So this area is new to me. I've not worked here much, but I'm part of a team that comes here to help when fires get large like this. I was part of the Type 3 team, and they kept me here for the Type 2 team as well. I want to thank some partners that were really influential. Some of the first people I came to meet here in the county, we stopped out at Monroe County EMA office, and they're here tonight. I just can't tell you how much of a public servant these folks all are. I could count on them anytime I called. Usually the first contact with them was, here, I've got this resource, I got this, I can do this, I can do that for you. They all gave me their personal cell numbers. I had no problem reaching them at any time, and they would help whatever they were doing with their families and elsewise, I believe, to help me and to get us resources as we needed them. And they are really, the team can do so much work, but the community it's critical that we have the community support and help, and they did that very well. I'd just like, if you could just stand for a minute. They'll be here afterwards if you'd like to talk to any of them. But, and there's a few that couldn't make it tonight, and there's certainly a lot of volunteers that helped us also. But some, from Monroe County BMA office, Bruce Henry, the director, is here. Also, the deputy director, Mary Ellen Keegan, is here. From Pike County, Tim Knapp, the director, is here. And Bernie Swartwood, the director of public safety from Pike County. From Porter Township, over in Pike County, Terry Koch, the township supervisor, is here. Go ahead, if you stand, please. Thank you. Rob Hillier, the Township Emergency Management Director for the township. Rob? Oh, I'm sorry, Rob didn't make it. But I tell you, Rob was at every meeting. He was out there in the forest. He was out helping with introductions to landowners and identifying where all the houses were. And he was really an important part of the work. Bill Powell, the chairman of the township, was also likewise. There's Bill. Yes, thank you. And all of these, and there's so many more here too. But I just can't emphasize so much. I believe when I walked into Bruce's office, he told me, I've got, if you need evacuations, I can help you with that. And I've got, lodging. I can line up with other partners to make that happen. I've got this communications trailer if you need help with communications. I mean, it just went on and listing out the different things. And I just can't say how much we appreciate that. And each one did that. Elk County, it was a TV antenna, or I'm sorry, a radio antenna that we needed, and that improved communications across the whole fire area, allowed us to operate safely. And there's just quite a number of things that we need to thank them for. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Tim Dugan, and he will.
Thank you, John. Okay, so earlier, as I discussed, I talked a little bit about some of the questions that have been coming into our office about what are the impacts on the landscape or the animals or the plants in the community. So I do just want to inform you all of some of our post-fire considerations. So this is a point that we're nearing. The Beartown fire is contained, and over the last couple of days, some of our local foresters have been going out there. If there are landowners here, you might have met some of our guys out there. They're assessing the dozer trails and any of the marks or dents on the landscape. We have a very high standard in the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources and in the Bureau of Forestry to do our best to reclaim those areas and bring them back to as close to their natural state as possible. Specifically, I'm talking about the dozer trails after a fire. So we did use bulldozers on different portions of the Beartown fire, and we'll be going out there and working. They started working this afternoon to remediate that site and rehabilitate it. For the landowners, that was all private property there, but it's still our responsibility to do our best to make sure that we don't have impacts to the ecosystem after the fact. Some of those impacts we are concerned about would be soil erosion, water quality, and potentially creating new access points that private landowners or the Commonwealth-owned lands don't want to have. So on the 16-mile fire, about 70% of that land that was impacted is privately held. And again, there we'll be working with the private landowners and on our state-owned lands to rehabilitate those trails to try to bring them back to a good balance point in the landscape so that we're not leaving a long-term scar there. If you have any questions, if you're one of the private landowners that was impacted, please feel free to grab a card from me tonight or contact one of my staff, and we will do our best to work with you out there to make sure that your needs are met as well as our needs to conserve the resource and make sure we don't have any bad problems in the future with that disturbance. Some important things about fire in the landscape level. When you get up in an airplane and you look across a large region, you can see the mountain and the valleys and the ridges, and it all plays together. And I think Pike County is very familiar with the impacts of major disturbance. And I look back to the tornadoes, that were about, I forget the date, apologize for that, maybe 12 years ago or so, about 14 years, 98? Yeah. And you can still see on the landscape the impact of those tornadoes. But the trees have come back, the habitat has returned. Fire has been a part of this ecosystem for a long time. And just like those tornadoes, these fires are going to create some new habitats across the region, and the animals and the plants will adapt and continue to live their lives. In terms of specific points of rehabilitation on private lands, we do have programs that are available to assist those private landowners. We have a service forester. His name is Garrett Beers. Some of you may know him. His job is essentially to go out and work with private landowners in the community to help them manage their forest land or answer their questions about their forest land. So he will be available. He's on our staff and he's always available. He's a little busy right now, but we can always get you in touch with him to help you out in the future. The NRCS is a federal agency, the Natural Resource Conservation Service. They have a series of funding packages that are available to help landowners manage their forest lands. So there is some funding available. Again, Garrett would be able to help you out with that process. Occasionally, we will do tree planting. Typically, we will wait to see what comes back naturally after fires come across the landscape. And if so needed, or if it's the desire to increase a certain species of trees in the area, we would do some supplemental tree planting. I would ask you to make sure that you pick some of the quick references that we had at the back at the check-in stage. Again, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. We do appreciate your attendance here and your time. This might have been dry information for some, but we feel that it's very important to show the whole picture of what has occurred over the last 8 days and our plan going forward. So just in closing, I thank you for your understanding and working with the Spruce project. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. All right, so how many of you guys learned something tonight? Something new? I did. So it's a learning opportunity. We hope you guys took something away from this. That was our goal tonight, let you know what we've been doing for the last 8 days. It's a long process, it's a tiring process, but we're going to be here to the bitter end. These folks are going to be here this evening. If you'd like to talk to them one-on-one, we will open the floor for some questions. Just ask that you be respectful of people asking questions, and then we'll ask our speakers to repeat the question so we can all hear it. And lastly, I just want to take a quick poll, selfish needs. How did you guys hear about tonight's meeting? How many of you heard it through like a media outlet, like TV, radio? Raise your hands high. Facebook. Okay. What about social media? Oh, all right. Good to know. What about a friend? Neighbor? Community? Okay. Anything else? School district. School district. The one call now? Okay. Awesome. Good to know. Thank you. I think we're ready to open the floor. I'm going to be running around, so if you want to ask the questions, raise your hand high. I'll come find you.
Yes, I have a cabin over on Ness Road. Had an evacuation been necessary, how would I have been notified? Because I'm not up here all the time.
Operations, what do you think? Come in operations.
Yeah, when we decided to evacuate up there, we physically went house to house to house.
What you guys think?
Yeah.
Come on, come over.
In the Pine Flats, that tight cluster of houses, I mean, I physically went through that house to house, make sure nobody was home, and somebody else went up the Pine Flats Road there to knock on doors, or not knock on doors, but going through making sure no one was there.
But my question is, if we have a cabin here but we weren't here, I live outside of Philadelphia, how would I have been notified to get up here?
That
I didn't
don't
hear
have
about
an
the
answer.
fire until I was up here on Monday. Well, I came up on Monday.
I'm not sure. I know back in the Dill track, there was a guy from Connecticut that actually, I don't know if he heard from one of the neighbors, the cabin owners, but I'm not sure. He drove down from Connecticut to check on his.
But no one from the township calls us or anything?
I can add something a little bit from the counties have a program where you can register with them for a email address that they're able to send out a notice, right, Bruce? There's not real high participation in that yet, but that's a possibility of a program. Am I correct on that? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah? There's another hand over here.
Hi, I have a cabin on Pine Flats, so once it is open and we can get in there, are there areas that we should be careful of? I'm concerned, like you're talking about the fire retardants being there. People are out hiking and, in the creeks, fishing or swimming, are there things that we need to worry about?
Okay, thank you. Yes, so we still have some closures on the Pine Flats area. Those are particularly for our firefighter safety. Once you're out in that landscape, the retardant is environmentally sensitive. You'll see an orange color out there. It will fade away after a couple rains. We do have a standard that we try our best to abide by, that we don't drop that retardant within 100 feet of waterways. It doesn't impact the waterway, but it will discolor the water. In terms of hazards in the region, like any day that you're walking in the woods, they have a namesake called widowmakers. You want to always look up and around. We have the snags and dead trees. So those are the main hazards you want to look for. In terms of the trails, the dozer trails, we're trying to mitigate any of the hazards on those, trying to return them back to the natural grade. So I really don't think you're going to see there's a lot of rocks in Pike County, so there'll just be some rocks on those trails. But Fortunately, the last stand was able to capture that fire before it shot out down onto that roadway.
Yes, first I'd like to thank you for what I thought was a very well-explained situation up here, for all your service. My concern involves this closure area. My family has a cabin west of 402, east of Highline, south of Hop Day, and north of Pine Flats Road. What am I allowed to do? Can I go in and get my trout fishing equipment without getting frisked by state police or something?
So, very good question. I just wanted to get clarification from our incident commander. Our closure is going to reduce, and we'll have a ranger where the Middle Branch Road comes off of Pine Flats Road, because that's where our firefighters are being active. Now that we have a sense of comfort with the condition of the fire, so the short answer is you can return back in there. You know, the only area that will be closed specifically is that Middle Branch Road to A Road, going further back.
Well, our area went through this back in, Eric Wright, a couple years ago, so I just wanted to check.
Yes, yeah, the community is well aware, unfortunately, of the disruptions that other things occur. If anything, our volunteers and our partners in the community learned some lessons from that last time, and we're learning again this time. So, thank you.
I'm just going to stay over here.
Hi, I'm not really sure who this is directed to, possibly any media people. I feel like the community has really been let down on information. The media is giving us really bland, vague data. This is wonderful. I feel so much more informed. Thank you very much. I'm wondering if that's like a lack of their effort, or if that's a lack of communication between you and them, or how can we get more information and stay on top of this? Because I really feel like before this I was in the dark. So I'm really concerned.
And rightfully so. So I'll take this one. So I'm the information officer. You know, we recognized some pitfalls when we came in to the incident. You know, we understand the power of social media and getting information out quickly to the media. Unfortunately, you know, we didn't have an election here, and sometimes things like that can supersede, you know, other things in the news. So we put out information. There were daily news releases that went out. It's up to them to decide whether or not they want to pick up the story. If nothing significantly changed in the news releases, they typically don't update you. That being said, I think, you know, we have learned some things, this organization has learned some things about being more efficient, and I think one of those is getting in front of you folks earlier in the process. So, well, you know, John had mentioned that one call now, or not that one call now, or reverse 911 type thing. You want to speak?
Yeah, Bruce, the name of that?
Yeah.
Sign.
Each of the counties, whether it's Monroe or Pike, have a alerting system. It's Rome Secure Alert Network, we call it RSAN. And you can go on that system and register yourself. And it will send text messages to you to alert you of any weather conditions or amber alerts or any issues that would affect your neighborhood. And it'll be specific to your group and the situation around you. Road closings or any notifications that need to go out. That's available in basically each county.
Okay, so for Monroe County, it's monroe.alertnews.gov.
should take you about 5 minutes to register. Just click on the New User button. You can sign up. We're trying to get the URL for Mike down here. Yeah, here's the link.
Tell you what, have you guys received the daily updates at all? Okay, so the updates that you guys have in your hands right now, I will make a deliberate attempt to get with these folks and get this information on the update for tomorrow, and we'll, absolutely. Yeah, you know what, have you, there's a reference on the bottom of that page, there's a link that's the Facebook page for the PA Forestry site. We will get some information on there. Can I get a commitment from PA Forestry to do that? Okay. We will get some information on there tomorrow for you about future incidents. He had his hand up first.
I have a cabin on Pine Flats. My question is, are we safe? I know you're telling us that it's up further, but I look at the map, I still don't understand about where it's at, so that's one of my questions.
Your question was, is the fire area safe? Is that correct? Pardon? Pine Flats, yeah. I'm glad you brought that question up because I didn't maybe assure you that we feel really confident that the line that's placed there now will contain the fire unless we get very dry and windy conditions and there's an ember hiding somewhere in a snag that would maybe blow across the line. But as of the last 2 days, they've been very productive in putting water on it, cutting down snags, and I feel very confident that that's as far as the fire is going north. The Pine Flats there was a big concern the day that they did that burnout on that line, and so I feel very confident.
Don't follow up.
That young lady back there was asking about contacting somebody. I got information, a call at the Pickle store, and I talked to Dan, I believe it was, two fellas there, and they kind of told me about where it was and what was going on. So if they needed to, I guess they had a man module set there at the store. Terry? Yeah, that's Terry's store, yeah. So, I mean, you could have got a hold of somebody. Of course, we're sitting on pins and needles and not knowing anything. And lastly, I'd like to thank everybody that was involved there, and I think everybody here that had cabins there should also do so. Thank you.
Pine Flats Road. Can I drive from Route 402 into the bridge? I have a cabin at the far line. Is that open to me to drive in that far?
Yeah, into the bridge at the Bushkill?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we're
There are
as of
barricades
tomorrow.
up there right now, yes. Is it okay to bypass those barricades?
Yeah. So as of tomorrow, we will be working to what we consider that as a soft closure in that area. We've had a lot of attention, public passerbys, obviously concerned cabin owners and lessees trying to get in. What we're going to do tomorrow is move our ranger back to the 90-degree turn at Middle Branch Road. But what I do really ask is that people are very cautious. We're going to have a lot of equipment coming in and out, and vehicles. You know, the roads aren't quite wide enough for big vehicles and little vehicles at the same time. So just please use caution in the area.
On that question, on that,
Yeah, he'll be behind.
back by the association,
He'll be behind where the lane cuts off.
back that far.
Yes.
Okay. I was going to ask if not, sure the motorcycle, what do you think of this?
We could work on some social media stuff, you know, as a go-to point, you know, for releasing of these closure openings. Yeah. There's a contact at the bottom of that paper as well, if phone is your preference. One last question, and then we'll make it available, these folks available for some one-on-one discussions.
First of all, just like that gentleman said there, thank you all for everything you're doing, because I wouldn't want to think what would be going on out there without everything you're doing. But as far as these temporary closures, I'm a cabin owner on a hot day. Is this temporary closure, is that going to soften, or are those roads going to be accessible in the near future, or is that still going to be, I guess, on a day-to-day or weekly basis that we're notified?
As far as the roads that we haven't mentioned, the closures and that, and I know you all understand that it's very critical safety for you all, our firefighters, anybody that's going in and out of those roads. We're going to monitor daily, we're going to assess it daily, we're going to adjust daily. A lot's going to depend on right now is, we're in a different pattern right now for this fire. Okay, as Randy mentioned, we feel real confident the fire's not going to get outside the control lines. There's very few smokes available that we saw today. We're going to start the rehabilitation. That means we're adjusting our tactics, we're adjusting equipment, we're adjusting personnel. And I can't stress enough, we thank you for your patience on this, but ultimately we have to consider safety the number one all the time. And all I can tell you right now is we're going to assess it probably hour by hour on this. As soon as that we can open those things up where it's going to be safe for you all and for our firefighters, we're going to do that. Okay. Fishing? Yeah. Talk later, okay? Round trout? Better yet. Thank you.
You want to close it out?
Nope.
No.
No, I'd just like to go back on that one question you had about, is it safe to go there? If my grandmother lived there, I'd move her back in, so there you go. And also, I didn't mention, one of our division supervisors with the team, the Take Two team, is also been assigned to do structure protection assessment for that general area right there. So he's been there today, looked at the structures and assessing them for the next situation, the next fire. And, he'll be writing a plan so that we can leave with the staff here to share with the folks that live there.
Yeah.
Catherine wants to close this out. I want to keep talking. Now you got me going. I just want to say I had the opportunity today to fly the fire, and I'm really happy. This is the first I've been up in the air on this fire, and I tell you, I wish I could have taken those photos, and shown you all, because it was so obvious what the incident commander did and all those people previous to us coming, trying to stop this fire, specifically utilizing those aircraft, those single-engine air tankers. It was just amazing, and why I could see that was because of the retardant they were using, the fire ice we refer to it as. And you can look at the patterns of the fire, you can look where they dropped the liquid, you can look where they dropped the water even, and they saved a lot of structures up there. I mean, you can visualize this from above and you can see exactly where those structures are, and you can see exactly the patterns where they dropped the liquid. And it saved a lot of structures. They did their darndest, I can tell you that, and I know what it's like to be in an aircraft and fly in the heat of the battle, and that smoke and the flames and everything that goes along with it. They did a tremendous job. 5 aircraft, 5 fixed-wing aircraft, seats, and those helicopters that were involved. I wish I could have took a picture of the whole thing, brought it here and showed you. It was a phenomenal job we did.
All right, thank you everybody for coming tonight. We really appreciate your time and your support. These folks will be around if you want to have some one-on-one conversations. Have a good night.